I'm Serena Contreras. I graduated from Judson High School in the in the IB program in 2017, and I'm going into my senior year at St. Mary's as an engineering sciences and mathematics major.
So what other universities did you consider besides St. Mary?
So originally, I really wanted to go out of state just to kind of spread my own wings. So I applied to like the University of Colorado Boulder. I applied to Virginia Tech, University of Illinois. All of those schools had really good engineering programs. So I really wanted to go there, but my in-state options were St. Mary's and Texas A&M. I primarily applied to St. Mary's because my mom is a St. Mary's alum. So I've been on campus, I knew that campus like the back of my own hand. So when I found out that their engineering program was highly ranked, I had to apply. It was just something I felt was right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. My next question was asking you what made you decide to apply for St. Mary? So is it because of your mom's connection and like it's a high-ranking program? Or did you so you've been to the school many times before? Was it like just a vibe kind of thing, like, oh, this is like my campus,
A little bit. That was mainly why I applied. And a huge part of the reason I decided to go to St. Mary's was the scholarship I got. So St. Mary's is a private college, private university, and private universities are known for being pretty expensive, but the scholarship I got made it cheaper than any state school. And they all gave me scholarships too. So, at the end of the day, I didn't want, student debt. So yeah, that's why I went.
Yeah. That's a very smart thing. So what made you first decide to do engineering? Have you always wanted to do engineering, or was it something you decided after attending college?
So a lot of my friends, I remember like junior and senior year, they were still undecided. They knew where they wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to be in engineering since probably 7th, 8th grade. It's been a while.
Wow.
The summer after 7th grade, I went to an engineering program. It's the prep program. And I've always loved problem solving. I've always loved math. I've always loved, trying to figure out how things were built, how things work. And when I went to this summer program, one of the guest speakers that came in was a civil engineer. And he talked about how he helped build bridges, how he helped build like skyscrapers, how he did like tunneling, all of that. And that was really what caught my attention. So all through 8th grade and, freshman, sophomore year, I would look up careers related to that. And I just absolutely loved civil engineering. So when I applied to engineering schools, there weren't very many civil engineering like concentrations, but I went into engineering sciences because that is a way to get your master's in civil engineering.
Oh, I see. Oh, so this is a master's program that you're doing right now, or?
So, not yet. I always wanted to get my master's. Okay. So I had to make sure that whatever degree I got my bachelor's in, they would allow me to go get my master's. And in looking it up, one of the bachelor's degrees you would need in order to get into a civil engineering master's program would be engineering sciences or civil engineering degree. And so I'm in engineering sciences.
I see. Okay. So I already, I'm pretty sure you said your career aspiration is, so it's absolutely like civil engineering related for sure.
Yeah. So I want to be a civil engineer. I haven't decided yet if I want a structural background, which it's kind of like structural engineering is part of civil engineering. So it's a concentration. So I've been leaning towards that, and that goes more into master's programs. So I have a little bit more time to think about that. But I've always wanted to be a civil engineer, and just recently, so people who know me really well know I absolutely love Disney. And Disney Disney has this program called Imagineering, which are all the engineers that put together the parks, and they even help with like software engineers help with Disney Plus, all of that. And structural engineering is actually structural and civil are two of the engineering concentrations that they always look for. So that's really interesting. I really want to look into that.
That would be so cool. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. So this is a weird question, but like, so when I've wanted to do engineering, like once upon a time, long time ago in high school, I was just like, oh, but I'm really bad at math. So, what kind of math do you usually use?
So we do a lot of, so my degree, engineering sciences, is very math concentrated, and that's one of the reasons I chose it. So because I love math, but a lot of the math we use is pre-calculus, and pre-calculus, it's, to me, it's not that bad, and it's because of the professors and the teachers I've had. But at the same time, it's, if you have the right mindset and you're willing to learn, the professors will always help you.
Okay.
Like they will always, make sure you understand the material. So a lot of it is pre-calculus, a little bit of calc 1, but that's all the basis for the for all of the equations that come up in engineering classes.
Okay.
And a lot of it also goes back to basic math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And it's a step-by-step thing. You get the first class, you'll understand the second class. You understand the second class, you'll understand the third class.
I see.
All of the programs are structured, so you don't have to jump straight into something you don't understand.
Okay, that's nice. I was just like, oh yeah, no, my math skills has always been not the best. Like I'm decent just because like I had like good teachers in high school, but I was like, I know I would not be able to survive if I go to college. But then that maybe not. It kind of depends on the professors, I guess. Yeah. So what was the most unexpected part of your major? I'm sure you went in with some, expectations.
I think the biggest thing was, for me being a female, engineering is a very male dominated degree, so when I went in, my first class was Introduction to Engineering, and the class had about 25 people in it, and I was one of 3 girls.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was kind of like, this is weird. Most of my classes in high school were basically split evenly, and it was a lot harder because these students, a lot of them are international students, so they know each other and they can communicate in a different way that I couldn't.
Exactly.
So I think the biggest difficulty was just like knowing I have to meet new people and learn to communicate in different ways. That was the most shocking thing to me. I thought, like with my friends in high school, a lot of females wanted to go into engineering and wanted to go into STEM, but I get to college and that's not the case. At least at my university. I don't know about other ones. But I also found that the professors in engineering are so eager to teach. They love what they do, and they want to make sure that you love what you do too.
That's really hard to find a professor that care a lot. I mean, I think a lot do, but it's just like some professors are meant to teach and some are meant to do research, and you can
Yeah.
But I totally understand what you mean by like the groups and stuff. I think for me, like also it's just a lot of the rich kids always like just know each other because of just they went to stuff like that. So I went in and it's just like everyone really know each other, and like here I am just like sitting alone. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think my STEM classes are kind of pretty much split, except for like the comp sci classes I took. I think it's mostly male dominated. What class did you enjoy the most during your time in college? It could be in your major or not your major. It could just be a random class that you took.
So I'm going to give one that's like, so St. Mary's does what they call St. Mary's core classes, which help you, they say it helps you develop your skills as a person, as a member of society. And so one of my favorite classes was Foundations of Reflection Self, which you learned so much about yourself in that class. It was kind of scary. I thought I knew myself pretty well, but I guess I didn't know myself as much as I thought I did. And it's basically a class that helps you figure out through philosophy how you make your decisions and where you get your morals from and what made you you. Um, like through philosophy, which was the interesting part. I had never taken a philosophy class, and that was something really interesting. There was no real reading. It was kind of, this person thought these three things. Do you believe in those? And then discussion went on, and you learned so much about how your morals came to be. So that was really interesting. But out of my engineering classes, I really liked statics. So statics was kind of like you put pressure on one end of a beam, what happens to the other? How far will it move? How fast will it move? What's the angular velocity? All that stuff, which was really interesting to me because I liked physics, and it was
God,
just
I know.
it was physics just a little higher.
Trigger.
It was physics minus all of the equations you didn't need for engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I absolutely hate physics. Like, to the bottom of my heart. I just absolutely hate it. Professor was super nice. Like I said, most of the time when you start with the professor was super nice, usually it ends with he sucks. But it's just like, oh, not a good class. I'm just like not a physics person. I think there are only very specific people that are good at physics. Like, yes, you can do well in classes, but like at the same time, sometimes there are like specific mindsets that can actually do physics.
Yeah, physics is more math-based science. Like, I cannot do biology to save my life. I can do chemistry because it's a little more like they have more equations than biology. Biology, I just can't. But like chemistry, I didn't realize how much chemistry goes into engineering too. I took another class that I really liked was material science, where you learned the chemistry of how certain metals came to be and how strong they are. And so if I hadn't taken chemistry my freshman year, actually I took it sophomore year. If I hadn't taken chemistry my sophomore year of college, I would not have liked that class at all. But that professor was nice and knew how to teach, so that was new. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, and I also like the philosophy thing. I have the same thing. Like, we also have like a core based thing. Like, yes, I respect it, but at the same time, it's very hard on STEM majors because we already have so many credits we have to do. We're on top of it. We have to do all of this like stuff. But at the same time, I found my philosophy class really interesting. It was like intro to ethics. I think it also depends on the professor. Like, I used to have such like bad opinions about philosophy majors just because STEM stuff, just because my friends are all STEM majors. But like what I've learned is like it's actually really interesting to see how you come up and like decide on certain decisions and like how you can go about different like paths just based on moral theories and things like that. So I mean, that would be a cool thing if we add this thing to this program, a self-reflection thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to approach it. So if you still have the syllabus, we can, even though I
got it somewhere. I was like, I have it.
We're not professors of philosophy, but I think it's very important to like self-reflect. That's definitely like I definitely also learned a lot about myself and like how I, some of the things I'm like, oh, was it morally correct? I don't know. Well, according to this guy, I was, but according to that guy, he said
was it? Yeah.
I know, I'm saying that guy kind of sucks, so I don't know how much we want to relate to this guy. Kantian ethics. Yeah, wasn't a great guy, but So what can someone in high school do to prepare for an engineering major if they want to just go about it? Obviously, a lot of math classes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so math classes are one thing. If you don't understand math too well, but you still want to go into engineering, just make sure to talk to your teachers in high school. I think that was another thing for me is I had pretty good relationships with my teachers in high school. I didn't feel scared to ask them questions. And I knew that when I asked them questions, they would give me honest answers. If I was wrong, they'd tell me. They wouldn't sugarcoat, anything. And I think that's something really important because I had that confidence to talk to people, like talk to teachers in high school. I have that confidence to talk to professors in college. So, ask questions now. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. It's okay if you don't understand something. It happens. So really, engineering is just something where, questions are going to be asked. It's just sometimes things are, you may think it's like magic that something works, but there's a whole science behind it. But that's what I would do now is prepare, is just, ask questions, get ready to actually work.
Yeah. I mean, for me, and I remember in high school, I asked a bunch of questions. I remember Miss Milam was like, she was teaching pre-calc, and I swear I asked her so much. I was just like, I'm so lost. And every time I'm like, oh, I get it. But I always answer with like, oh, I actually don't, because I'm like, I thought I get it, but I don't. So every time Miss Milam's like, do you actually get it? And I'm like, okay, Miss Milam, come after me.
Like,
but,
you would get the beginning, and then there's one thing you just don't know, and it ruins the rest of it.
I know. I'm just like, actually, she's like, that's what I thought. I'm like, okay, Miss Violet, come after me.
Miss Violet was great.
I loved her. But in college, the hard thing is like you have to understand enough to ask questions. Like that is, you don't know. Like that's why I prefer office hours, because I don't really know enough about a subject to actually ask questions. So when professor like asks me like, why didn't you ask a question in class? I'm just like, I don't even know how to like structure.
If I asked a question in class, I would have had to ask a question before that and one before that. Like, yeah.
You would have to go back to like the first slide of your presentation
and then start all over.
I know, but you'll have to do that. So I mean, I didn't want to interrupt you. So, but honestly, sometimes it's good to stop in the beginning, right in the beginning when you're lost. Because sometimes I do forget, like, I was like, oh, but he just started. I don't want to interrupt him. But like, you're gonna get more lost as he goes on if you don't understand like the first side,
Yeah.
So let's see, what other extracurricular activities are you involved in? And also, can you talk more a little about your internship in Houston? That sounds exciting.
So I'll go ahead and start with extracurriculars. So on campus, I'm part of Sigma Sigma Sigma, or like Tri Sigma for short. It's the sorority. There's a whole idea that sororities are a certain way, but the sorority I'm in, we do community service. We have study hours where we all get together and just do homework. I am the only engineering major in my sorority, but there are people who are in like who are business majors or who have to take mandatory math classes. So I'm kind of a tutor at the same time. I'm in like Cal 3, and they're like, okay, so I need help with pre-cal. And it's just a great kind of networking system. Mm-hmm. So through that, we do all of the things like Big Little, we do initiation, and yes, it is time consuming, but it teaches people how to manage time. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a strict schedule, but I have a schedule of like what needs to get done before my event at 7 tonight. What do I have to do, before I go do something else? So sororities, they have an image of being kind of, partying and all this stuff, but we all have to keep a GPA of at least a 3.0. So that's, we work together to make sure we all succeed. So that's a great thing. I really love it. But my internship, I have an internship with a company. Actually, the company's out of Kentucky, I think, but they have a branch in Houston. So I work with them, and what they do is they do a lot of like flood repairs, and they make levees for certain areas. When it rains a lot, those areas get flooded, so they're working on drainage. They're working on road repairs. So I'm actually there with one of the project managers, and she has a bunch of meetings because she's in charge of like 4 or 5 projects at a time. And I just kind of sit there and learn about, what goes into an engineering drawing, which is kind of like a blueprint, but of like the ground of the earth, and how they build up from there. And, what materials are used for what, and how to actually convey your ideas to your customer, and how to take their ideas and kind of mesh them with your own, and make the project actually work, and make it work on time.
On time.
That's on time is a big one.
I don't want it before the flood happens. So what advice would you give to someone who is considering an engineering degree? I was like very terrified because I did apply to some schools with I wanted to do biomedical engineering, but I was afraid that I didn't have enough math background, and I didn't even take physics in high school, so I was like, oh, that's very scary. I don't know if I'm gonna get in. So I did get into UT Austin's biomedical engineering program, which is very surprising. So I was like, I guess I didn't need that physics thing or Calc 1 or 2. But what advice would you give to someone who's considering an engineering degree?
So I took physics. I took 3 years of physics in high school. So I took physics pre-IB and then the 2 years of IB physics. But most schools have their own physics programs, so they want you to take those programs because it'll teach you what they think is necessary. And they do that with a lot of other fields, but obviously I had to take physics. But as a high school student, getting ready, wanting to apply to an engineering program, I would just say, be yourself. There's nothing wrong with not having taken physics. I have friends who are going into their senior year with me in engineering who never took physics in high school. And, like I said, your entry-level classes are meant to teach you what you need for the next 4 years. They're not going to say, you should have learned this in high school, I'm not doing it. They are responsible for teaching you your basis, your ground level for the next 4 years. So if you're afraid of that, apply anyway. You'll be okay. You just make a group of friends who will understand you, who know what you're going through, and that's really all you need. Them, talk to your professors, just try and immerse yourself in college once you're there. But before then, just be yourself. If they ask if you've taken certain classes, just be honest. There's nothing wrong with that. When I applied, I was afraid, I had taken 3 years of physics. I was in advanced math, and I still didn't think I had what it took to be an engineer. But, everyone comes from different backgrounds, and we're all there, to get our degree. So, yeah, in high school, just, be you. Don't worry about the rest.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking to me.